Bob Harrington was my very first cabaret reviewer, and he taught me through his writing that there was such a thing as constructive criticism, which he put in every single one of his reviews. There were people who would, after even not writing a kind review about someone, would send him thank you notes. Thank you for the information I learned by reading your review.
I need to just say one more thing about that, which Will was talking about.
Is it about what I'm saying?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, it is. Oh, here I am, getting all coked up from Coca-Cola.
And beveraged.
Yeah. And there's nothing extra in there either. So, yes. Will doesn't write any technical things telling people what to do. As a singer, for like as many years as I am, I do give...
Constructive criticism does not necessarily mean telling people...
No, I tell people what to do. I tell people what to do. I'm a singer. If they're singing flat, and which I have done sometimes, and if I know a way for them to not sing flat, and if it takes one letter, if I tell them if they make their rib cage a little bigger, I'll tell that. That's not boring my audience. It's 1 or 2 lines. I will give technical advice, especially if I want someone who's great to get better.
Well, a few different qualifications for Will and for me. I think part of the issue is that we actually just have very little space. And so there's only so technical...
What's the average length of a review?
For about 300 words, 250 or 300 words. So you have 2 paragraphs, basically, into which you have to sort of compress your various thoughts about this artist, about what's interesting about it, and also to try to throw in some good writing to make it interesting as a piece of writing itself for the reader. That gives you... Which is really key, yes. I think. I mean, because ultimately, and just to echo what Will said a moment ago, really you're writing for the reader. So whether, I mean, by the time I see a play, for example, it doesn't matter how constructive I think I'm being. I'm not the director of the play. I'm not the dramaturg. By the time I'm seeing the play, it's frozen. No matter how smart I am about the flaws of the play, they are not going to get fixed based on what I write.
Well, I agree with you, but I agree with you, but I need to cut in because I can really, in one line, I have these 200 word things. I can in one line, I'm not making myself out to be a great person, but I mean, first of all, my magazine asked me to do that, to be able to help people fix themselves. So that's part of it. But I can tell the people what they need to hear.
That's not life exchange.
No, cabaret scene.
Cabaret scene.
But seriously, but what I mean is that it's a conversation between me and a reader. And if the artist wants to eavesdrop on that conversation, that's their prerogative. It's an audience, and it's an intra-audience conversation that is happening in a public space. And the artist, I know that a lot of artists do read these, and that's fine. I accept that, and it's good to know. It helps keep you in check from being a joke. Because sometimes there's a temptation to have a really mean line, and unless it's really deserved, you have to hold it back, because it will hurt people. It will hurt people's feelings, it will hurt people's professional lives, and you try not to be a jerk. And knowing that they're reading it and their friends are reading it helps. But, that said, you're not ready for that. Really, that's not your job.
I disagree.
As far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, okay, my turn.
But there are...
I do suggest it's about not getting across. I do write for the audience. There's no reason why you can't get a little thing in there for the performer. There's no reason why you can't.
Now,
Roy, go ahead. You're too polite.
My mother raised me. I currently write for performers and industry people, but I also have written for the general public. There are some differences in the depth to which I go in my analysis, but my mission is the same in both, to make things better. Because we talked about that's one of the questions that sort of segues into that. One of my fundamental objectives is to make things better. And that manifests itself in several ways. When I'm writing for performers, my objective is to make each performer the best he possibly can be. His act may be frozen, but his next act is still to come. Other singers reading it, I want to learn from my comments. If I see someone I just didn't like it, And if I have nothing useful to say, I'm not going to bother reviewing it. I'm not assigned to
You know,
cover
that's
anything.
interesting that Will and you think that way because.
Well, if I don't have, if there's not, look at it. Will has another point. He's writing for people who have to decide what to go to see.
Right.
My point is, look, let me just continue on this thought. Okay, so if I'm writing for performers and industry people, my objective is to help them be better, either in the current show or other people thinking, if I have the same kind of choice to make, how should I do it? And they're free to disagree with me, of course, but this is how I think it should be done. If I'm writing for the general public, there's something similar at work. I want to help educate the public on how to evaluate what's good, what's bad. The public is often sheepish, otherwise having to explain the popularity and success of modern art. People are not thinking. People are not thinking.
I'm actually going to say Mamma Mia. But
no, I always saw it with the film, which I can't explain either. But the thing is, so by informing, helping to educate the audience's opinion, it will help. It contributes to improving the art form. However, when I'm writing for performers, I will really go into some considerable depth sometimes about what choices, why they were wrong, what could have been done, whereas I won't go to the same detail in a piece of the public. My objective is the same, to make things better.
Adam, do you want to comment on what Roy said?
No, I mean, I agree, and I think, obviously, if you're writing a negative review, if you're a good writer, if you're a good critic, you will back up your criticisms with reasons for them.
Right.
You won't just come out and say, this is bad because it's boring and there's no authority to rest it on. And it's boring to read because the reader isn't getting anything out of it. You want to add as much content to the writing as possible, and that can often be instructive if it's, certainly in the aggregate, you can get a sense after reading a bunch of reviews of what constitutes good taste, what constitutes good writing. And so, yeah, there will always be elements, especially in a negative review, that you can learn from constructively if you set your mind to it. But that's not my goal when I write a piece. I bear in mind that the artist might be reading it. I hope that I can help them, or in some way, positively or negatively help them. But that's not my primary objective.
I augment what I say, because that's one of my fundamental objectives, is to make things better. I have at least one other fundamental objective, and that is justice. I get very emotional about this. I believe that it's important that artists who do good work be recognized. They've earned it, and they deserve recognition. So it's very important for me to give credit where it's due. Similarly, the other side of that same coin is, I mentioned I generally won't write a negative review if I have nothing useful to say about it, because why waste the time? And as Will said, for different reasons, but still why waste the time? An exception would be if someone has generally received praise from most other critics, and I think that's wrong. My sense of justice cries out, I've got to say, no, this is wrong. This person is making mistakes.
Absolutely.
We can't have this continue to be praised.
That's something to say.
But it's still constructive.
For the audience, especially.
Well, yes, it may help them rethink something. And people are always free to disagree. Of course, I think I'm right. They're free to disagree. No. It's not just one person's opinion. I think I'm right. Otherwise, I have no business writing. And you're free to disagree.